אתן תדרוך, ימוס כתיר ותליל, מתחשק חזותר עצמנו, כי אתה שלי. ותראיני בינינו, אימונה אנוכי בצרה, החצהו וחמתהו, איך ימים עצמיהו, והראהו בישועתי, אורך ימים עצמיהו, והראהו בישועתי. המקומה תבוא לשלום. We got Chisvin. Once it's God in peace for a final resting place. שמע אדוני מבורך, ורק ומכפר בו ולא ישפיל. וירבה להשיב אפו ולא יעל כל קמתו, וישור יפה על קשיה, והרוח תשוב אל אלוהים אשר נתנה. מזמור לדוד, אדוני מי יגור בו עליך, מי ישכון בהר קודשך, הולך תמים ופועל צדק, ודובר אמת בלבבו, לא רגל על לשונו, לא עשה לרוע, וחרפה לא נשא על קרובו, נבזה ועיניו נמאס. ותראה אדוני יכבד, נשבע לרע ולא ימיר. כספו לא נתן בנשך, ושוחד הנקי לא לקח. עושה אלה לא ימות לעולם. A Psalm of David. Do we deserve to enter God's sanctuary? Can we merit a place in the presence of God? Live with integrity, do what is right. Speak the truth without deceit. Have no slander upon your tongue. Do no evil to others. Do not mistreat your neighbor. Never retract a promise once made, though it may bring you harm. Lend no money at unfair rates. Accept no bribe against the innocent. Make these deeds your own. Then you shall stand firm forever. We are here to perform the mitzvah of Kvod Hamet, of honoring the dead and to pay tribute to the life of Nina Chisvin, Nechama Bat Moshe, Vigolda Rachel. In Pirkei Avot, Ben Zoma asks, Ezehu mechubad, who is an honorable person? And he responds, Hamechabed et habriot, one who honors, loves, and cares for other human beings. As her son David said to me, when it comes to treating people with respect, Nina is a true role model for all of us. Nina lived her life caring for and showing respect to others and enjoying simple pleasures, doing them with and for the people she loved the most. We extend our nichumin, our condolences, to Nina's beloved children, Ellen, Sorrel and Avi, and David and Susan, her adored grandchildren, Paloma and Ben, Corey, Piper and Belle, and her partner Michaela. Of course, we extend our condolences to the love of her life, Alan Chisvin, her husband of 27 years, and his children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, who were warmly included in her circle of love and through whom she became a great-grandmother. Itchem anachnu b'tzaratchem, we are all here because we want to be here for you at this time. We of course remember at this time as well Nina's beloved parents, Meshel and Reichel Globerman, her siblings and their spouses, Morley and Dincy Globerman, Esther and Irv Niesenholt, Abe and Naomi Globerman. I'd like to call up Nina's daughter Sorrel to share hesped, words of eulogy.
First, I want to thank, really from the bottom of my heart, to see all the people who've come from far and near, have made the effort. Her circle of friends is enormous, and this loss is felt by all of us. My mother told me that many years ago, when she was visiting Vancouver, she espied for the first time a magnolia tree in its full, glorious bloom. Stopped in her tracks, she was moved, she told me, to recite the Shehechianu, a prayer thanking God for keeping us alive to experience such a moment. It may seem strange, odd perhaps, to invoke this prayer at a time like this. However, this was my mother's essence, to experience life in all its beauty and despair, to give and share love beyond words, to know that we have but one life on this earth, and we must live it fully and unreservedly. My mother was above all a human being with deep feeling and understanding of all her senses. She loved to look at beautiful people, places, and things. I recall taking her to the art gallery in Winnipeg to see the Inuit sculptures. As I pushed her along in her wheelchair, she was awestruck at the intricacy of the figurines. A person holding a fishing line, an owl with delicately sculpted feathers. She turned to me and remarked, "A person made that with his own hands." She stared at those creations in wonder. I recall our trip to Alaska to celebrate her 85th and my 60th birthdays. She gaped at the ice floes passing by our ship. She witnessed a family of seals on the ice with their newborn babies. All of these moments deserving of a shehechianu. My mother loved to touch and be touched. She marveled at the feeling of silk and cashmere between her fingers. She melted when anyone brushed her hair or even touched her scalp. I vividly recall her in labor with my beloved brother David. I sat on the back of the sofa and brushed her hair, while she, I imagine, relaxed and breathed deeply. I somehow recall she was wearing a black shirt with vivid flowers. She told me later that it was borrowed from Sophie. If you want the full story of how my brother was nearly born in an elevator, you can ask David. A while ago, when my mother was really no longer Nina, I crawled into bed with her. She spoke very little by then, almost nothing, but she reached over and played with the hair at the nape of my neck. It really shattered me. She was still in there, but couldn't find the words to express it. Nina loved fragrance. I recall her taking a bath with Yardley lavender, a drugstore scent. I realize now that she was practicing a primitive form of aromatherapy. What I thought was a moment of bliss for her was probably her way of coping with whatever stresses she was experiencing at that moment. Later on, her favorite scent was gardenia, an intoxicating blend of the tropics and the unknown, which transported her to an olfactory nirvana. Of course, lilies of the valley, lilacs, and the queen of all, roses. I vividly recall my mother singing quietly to herself in the kitchen while preparing our nightly dinners, a sweet air in Yiddish, something she had heard from a past life. She told me later that her mother told her that her mother, Chaya Leah, had a beautiful voice. Apparently there was an uncle in that family who was an opera singer. Recently, she told me that when she was at home, Zedek would play the opera Carmen, sung by one Gladys Swarthout, a name I had never ever heard my mother utter. I quickly procured the libretto. Actually, Ben got it on Amazon. And she was able to watch the production on YouTube. She told me that she remembered all the lyrics. But the sound which best reached my mother was the sound of her mama loshen, literally her mother's tongue. The beautiful Yiddish, which reached right into her neurons and synapses. She was fascinated by words and how they named things. And when it came to naming me, my mother did me the complicated favor of giving me a Yiddish name, Sorale, one which blessed me with the responsibility to explain and reveal my identity as a Jewish person every time I introduced myself to someone new. Anyone who knew Nina intimately knew that her favorite sense of all was taste. She did not have a refined palate, but if a recipe contained potatoes, oil, and salt, she was in heaven. She told me once that she would rather eat at Kalekas twice than Ray and Jerry's once. And don't get me started on chocolate. Somehow, my mother was able to devour a whole tray of Laura Secord French mints and still maintain her youthful shape. In recent times, when she refused even a hot fudge sundae, we knew we were in trouble. Finally, the one sense which we cannot name is Nina's abundant, unlimited sense of love, which went beyond her immediate family. We, her children, knew how much she adored and were proud of us. When my brother volunteered for the IDF, you can ask him about that, one of the only things my mother could say in Hebrew was, "Haben shali tzanhan," my son is a paratrooper. My cousins, her nieces and nephews on both sides of the family knew that she was a comforting shoulder, a sympathetic ear, and sometimes a no-nonsense advice giver. She quailed over Alan's offspring, and their offspring, absorbing all the delicious babies in her orbit. Her great love and our comfort in this chapter of her life is, of course, her cherished Alan. That my mother was not alone through this dreadful ordeal is a great source of relief to us. I hope my mother's love and power radiates from the beyond to provide solace for you, Alan, in this unimaginable time. We are devastated, bereft, torn, and shattered. But we will survive and thrive as Nina taught us love, joy, and resilience. Some time ago, my mother asked me if Jews believe in Gan Eden. I told her we do believe in Olam Haba, and I hope I'm not being sacrilegious if I wish my mother a Gan Eden surrounded with wondrous beauty of the eye, sweet fragrances of grace, soft, comfortable feelings, all the kolekes she desired, and our infinite, everlasting power of love. I imagine my mother being greeted by all her loved ones, her dear brothers and sisters and their spouses, our Zedek to whom she was devoted, and finally her own mother, whom she lost decades ago. I imagine Bobby Reichel greeting her with outstretched arms, saying, "Kum tochterl, kum aher."
Shnirele, perele, gildel nefon, Mashiach ben David sitzt oi benon. Halta Becher in der rechten Hand, macht da Bräucha auf dem ganzen Land. Oi Amen, ve Amen, das ist wohl, Mashiach wird kommen ein Tixjol. Oi Amen, ve Amen, das ist wohl, Mashiach wird kommen an Tixjol. Bell and Piper will come share some memories of their Bubby.
No matter what my sister and I say today, the prospect of eulogizing the matriarch of our family is daunting because nothing we say at this moment will be sufficient to articulate the impact her presence has had on our lives. But that's okay. We all know how she made us feel. Celebrated, cherished, understood, and loved. This speech is simply a reminder of those feelings and of those moments.
Our Bobby Nina was the most beautiful person we've ever known. She had so many distinct chapters throughout her life. Her childhood on Boyd Avenue, her teen years with the Gabalots, the group of friends she maintained throughout her life, her marriage to our Zeta Manuel and raising her 3 children, Ellen, Sorrel, and our father David, her lifelong friendship with our beloved 3rd grandmother, Elaine Wiseman, her time working at Talmud Torah, her beloved marriage to Alan, and her nearly 4 decades of being a Bobby to Paloma, Ben, Corey, Belle, Belle's partner Michaela, and myself. And these are just the highlights. We didn't have the opportunity to know our Bobby through all the chapters of her life, but our Bobby has known us, and known us deeply throughout all of the chapters of our lives thus far. To be known is to be loved, and we are who we are because of our Baba Nina's deep love, compassion, patience, unwavering support, and judgments. Our Baba was very judgmental and proud of it. She said, "We all make judgments." And even with her judgments, our Bobby led with a warm curiosity and an authentic desire to listen and understand our decisions and our dreams.
In their golden years, Bobby and Alan flew down south for the winter to Palm Springs as snowbirds. Their gated community formed their own little utopia of like-minded, elderly Jewish friends. My family and I were tremendously lucky to visit them several times and stay in their condo. There, Bobby and Alan would host marvelous New Year's Eve parties. To me, at age 10 or 12, the epitome of glamour, and in my mind I can picture her floating around the party, laughing and being a superb hostess. Hilariously, the party would end shortly after 9 p.m., because that's when the ball dropped in New York. In Palm Springs, we picked lemons from the trees around the property and made lemonade, both of us impatient for it to hurry up and get cold in the fridge, and whatever else homemade lemonade needs to do while it marinates.
Our Bobby loved being a Baba. Growing up, our Baba never met her grandparents and wrote letters to her father Meshal's mother. Our Bobby would regularly tell us a story of these letters and of writing to her Baba, quote, "I hope there won't be a milchama, a war." That was the last letter our Bobby ever sent her Baba, as contact ended when our Bobby was around 8 and her Baba and extended family were persecuted and perished in the Holocaust. Our Bobby took enormous joy and responsibility in being a Baba. She was at every large event throughout our lives, every musical recital and performance. She schwitzed at Bell's swim meets, and she flew across the country to both of my university graduations, Bell's University move-in, and later her graduation. But moreover, the best memories we have with our Bobby are all of the seemingly, quote, nothing moments from everyday life. From racing over after school or work to watch Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy with her and Alan on their cozy couch, playing Rubby Cube, and usually losing to her or Alan, to eating French fries together at Ray and Jerry's, to snuggling up together and spending hours talking about all of our deepest thoughts. Living within minutes of our Bobby was a gift and facilitated extraordinary quality time together. One of the largest and most ongoing tiffs we would have as sisters throughout our childhoods would be taking turns getting, quote, niced by Bobby. In fact, at times we would time our turns down to the minute. Nicing was the term our Bobby created for playing with our hair. It was the most therapeutic form of love, and we sought out nicings from Bobby well into our adulthood. We must admit that as kids, we weren't always the best at returning the favor, though Bobby would con us into returning the favor by suggesting we play hairdresser with her. But as we grew older, we were typically the ones doing the nicing to our Bobby.
We would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge that our Bobby was fiercely proud of being Jewish and never, ever forgot the sacrifices her parents made in order to live a modest life away from persecution. She was not a religious woman in the godly sense. For her, like me, the Holocaust was incompatible with that notion. Our Baba was fiercely proud of contributing to the creation of an extended family of proud and usually loud Jewish Zionists. Her mother tongue was Yiddish, and towards the end of her life, that was the best way of communicating with her. My dad would ask her a question in Yiddish, to which, almost like a light bulb, she would respond in kind, with her eyes, or a smile, or a David'l, a nickname rooted in Yiddish slang only reserved for them. Before we conclude, it is important for us to discuss our Bobby's standout sweet tooth. It was my Bobby who instilled so deeply in me that there's always room for dessert. Like, come on, is that even a question? When I was really young, she taught me to sprinkle white sugar on my strawberries, and let me tell you, I was mesmerized. From this, I can deduce the following. She saw the fun in life and wanted to squeeze every bit of sweetness out of it. I encourage everyone here and listening virtually to have a slice of something sweet tonight in her honor.
Further, on our Baba's 89th birthday, we had some outdoor celebrations and gave her all sorts of gifts. One small part of my gift to her was cherry blossoms and O. Henry chocolate bars, two of her absolute favorites. My Baba looked at me and said, "When you get lonely, have a chocolate." I really feel that these are words to live by. Almost exactly a year ago, I sat down with my Bobby to read, and I highly recommend everybody do this, to read For You When I Am Gone, 12 Essential Questions to Tell a Life Story by Rabbi Steve Letter. One of the questions in the book is, what will your epitaph say? Without missing a beat, my Baba said, "She made the best cutletten." And later she added, "And she was a mensch." Well, my vegetarian origin story begins in my Baba's kitchen. Everything I've ever heard confirms that my Bobby did in fact make the best cutletten.
I can confirm. And moreover, my Bobby was the greatest mensch I've ever known. She poured every ounce of goodness into us and everyone she met into her final days.
We have dreaded this day for years. Even when my Baba was the picture of health, I'd sometimes just start crying when I was spending time with her. She'd look at me all-knowing and say, "Don't worry, Piper, I'm not going anywhere." I've often wondered how I will survive without my Baba. She has consistently been my nechama, my comfort, and my North Star. And while today we are faced with the weighty reality of, for the first time, stepping into a new chapter of our lives without our Bobby, we know that her teachings and unconditional love will bring us comfort and guidance in each of our next steps. For as long as I can remember, when I would say I love you to my Bobby, she would reply enthusiastically, "I loved you first." Bobby, we love you, and we will miss you always.
An excerpt from Russian Jewish poet Rachel Blaustein, poems My Dead, Only the Dead Don't Die. Berit emet hilanu, kasher lo nifrad, rak asher avad li, kinyanu le'ad. A true pact is ours, a bond time cannot dissever.
Only what I have lost is what I possess forever.
Piper just referred to Nina as her nechama and northern star. Nechama being comfort. And the word nechama comes up in the Torah portion that we just read this week, Chaye Sarah. Chaye Sarah means the life of Sarah, but actually begins with her death. And goes through the details of Avram burying his beloved wife with care and with love, exactly as we are doing now. There's a midrash, a commentary, a rabbinic story of sorts that tells that when Sarah was alive, her ohel, her tent, was always filled with light. And when she died, that light was extinguished. Towards the end of the Torah portion, Yitzchak brings his wife, Rebecca, into the tent. And the Torah says, Vayehaveh, he loved her. Vayinachem, that word nechama of comfort. Yitzchak acharei imo. And Yitzchak was comforted after the loss of his mother. The Midrash teaches that those words come to tell us that when Rivka entered Sarah's tent, that light was kindled once again. Nina, at her essence, was a person who brought comfort to others and so much light and brightness into the world. Born during the Great Depression, she held on tightly to the lessons that she learned from her parents, Meshel and Reichel, and developed a resilience and pragmatism that would serve her throughout her life. David, you mentioned how core this was to her identity, and the great Yiddish expression, rain isn't going to make you melt. And Sorrel shared that her mother believed in her need to be self-sufficient and lived the words of the great sage Hillel, Im ein ani li mili, if I'm not for myself, then who will be for me? As you heard, Nina just loved being Jewish and spreading the light of Yiddish and Yiddishkeit through her work in the library, and taught her children that being Jewish was not negotiable, and as such was proud of Ellen's commitment to Jewish tradition. Nina's love for the Jewish people extended to her love for Israel as a fierce Zionist, and was blessed to be alive at the birth of the country in 1948. And though it frightened her tremendously, gave her full blessing to David as he became a tzancha and a paratrooper. She loved being a mother, and Sorrel shared she was a mother figure for all of the cousins. But it was as a grandmother that she truly found her greatest joy and her opportunity to spread the most light. She loved all of her grandchildren and felt blessed to live only minutes away from Piper and Belle. My children, 3 of her 9 great-grandchildren, adored her fashion, her infectious smile, and the effort she would make to come visit them at Winnipeg Beach, including this past summer. Nina was affectionate and warm and had the capacity to love so many people. 27 years ago, this woman who Alan Chisvin described as having had the ability to brighten up every room she would enter with her big smile and a story to share, became a source of light and comfort for him when he needed it most. They knew each other from childhood, but when they reconnected in their early 60s, it was love at first sight. Their life together became filled with family meals, bridge tournaments which she excelled at 3 months a year in Palm Springs, and countless nights of socializing with their many friends. Their love for each other and hours of Remy Cube helped them survive COVID with their light undimmed. The last 2 years were difficult as Alan became her primary caregiver, but did so out of love and honor, kavod for his incredible wife. Theirs truly is a love story. Tehini shmatat tzura b'tzora chayim. May her memory be a source of blessing for all of us, and may her soul be bound up with the chain of everlasting life and light. We're all now going to participate in this mitzvah with our hands. We're going to take turns covering the casket with earth. It's what the rabbis refer to as a chesed shel emet, an act of true love and kindness that can never be repaid. Nina would say that when we place earth over the casket, it is like we are covering them with a blanket, being a comforter for our loved one. The way we do it is that we start with just a little bit of earth on the back of the shovel, and we place it in, and then we can turn it over and do it the regular way. And instead of passing the shovel to the next person, we put it back into the earth. It's our way of showing that although she lived a long, beautiful life, we wish she had a few more days. So I'm going to ask her children to begin, and Zedek to come join them. anyone who wants to come participate in the mitzvah can join in. We can do a few people at the same time.